So Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's done now. Disney Plus, finally did it. They brought in something major and like ever changing to the MCU. They finally gave us a new Captain America. I feel like there's gonna be another Captain America in the future that's not Steve or Sam. And
Hmm. Yeah, I
um,
mean, eventually, right? It depends how far this keeps going, right?
well, no, did you see on Twitter that Captain America has his own Twitter, and it was originally like a kid from Brooklyn to on your left, and now they have a picture of Sam on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's why I feel like
Yeah.
there's going to be another Captain America maybe in the future that, the title doesn't strictly belong to Steve.
Oh, I think they did announce a Captain America movie,
Yeah,
Captain
another
America
one.
4, yeah,
Hmm.
4, like starring Falcon, yeah.
And I will say this though, it feels his, I don't know, like Sam's costume felt kind of looked kind of weird to me. He seemed more like an iteration of Iron Man than Captain America.
Yeah, but it seemed a little loud, but and they redesign Captain's suit every movie, so they'll redesign it again. Um, it's fine. The ending, it kind of went out with a little whimper. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was fine. I didn't enjoy it as much as WandaVision. I thought
Mm,
WandaVision just was more creative and had a lot more going on.
really? I know that is
Um,
true, but like I feel as though they're both on the same level for me.
yeah, okay. I think the thing that saved Falcon and the Winter Soldier is that both Falcon and Winter Soldier and Isaiah Bradley were very compelling characters who gave it them their all. But a lot of and Zemo was kind of the sleeper hit. Like everybody loved Zemo.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of stuff, like the actual plot of the Flag Smashers and like what they wanted was very confusing. Um, they're trying to make the villain very sympathetic, um, but I'm not sure it really worked. It we didn't really get the urgency that they needed to save the world. Like the Flag Smashers, if they kidnapped a bunch of politicians, I'm like, who cares? These politicians seemed like assholes. Like it's not the same as like stopping, you know, Thanos, or helicarriers or Hydra, it didn't seem very big. Um, you know, but I really did like the protagonists. I freaking loved, Falcon and Winter Soldier themselves, and I wanted to see more of them on screen.
Did you think the Flag Smashers were, and this is a problem with Marvel, did you think the Flag Smashers were even memorable at all? They just seemed like bad guy of the week. And has always been a problem with
Yeah.
Marvel films. The bad guys have always been just kind of like, that's why people love Thanos so much, because he came in, he's the bad guy, but he was memorable. But
Right.
can you remember the bad guy from any of the Thor films? Besides Hera, can you remember any of the bad guys from the Iron Man films or the Ant-Man films? Like, can
I mean, I
like
kind of remember Justin Hammer because because it's played by Sam Rockwell and he's so likable. But the Iron Man movies are the most forgettable for me. People love the Iron Man. Like some people love the Iron Man movies. All three of them, I just didn't really care for that much. Um, I like, Thor Ragnarok I don't know, things like that. But I like the Guardians movies. I like something where there's a lot of imagination in it.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, I think the Flag Smashers, I didn't have the sense of urgency with them. I never saw them as a threat. They were, chasing around plazas in Latvia for that all looked the same. I was expecting something bigger with U.S. Agent that never came. Um, I felt like they were setting it up, kind of like the Monica Rambo stuff. Like you're like, oh, I thought this was going someplace, and it's going someplace in the future. Like you were doing this to create U.S. Agent for like, you know, it's, John Walker taking that serum is a pretty dark moment. Like, oh my gosh, like what kind of human being is going to take that serum, and what kind of evil are you unleashing? And no, nothing. You're not really unleashing anything bad. Like, are you unleashing anything good?
We'll see in a future
Something.
film. Tune
We'll
in.
see in a future film. It's kind of in between. Um, and the whole money, a power broker thing fell flat for me as well. Like I said, it doesn't really make sense that Sharon Carter is the power broker timeline wise. Um, but you know, I guess that's all set up for the future as well. You know, like I didn't feel like the end of the chapter. I mean, it was the end of the chapter in the growth of Sam and Bucky, and that was really well done. And I liked their parallel plots of Falcon needs to become Captain America, Bucky needs to unbecome Winter Soldier. Like I liked that duality that was going on. In fact, at the end of the series, you know how it says Captain America and the Winter Soldier?
Mm-hmm.
It should have said Captain America and Bucky Barnes.
Mm.
You know, right?
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, they really fucked up. That was a real missed opportunity because that was the whole thing.
For me, in regards to WandaVision and Falcon, it's on the same level of entertainment, but I will say WandaVision got the villain correct. Agatha was very memorable. The actress herself, great. I do love how... It's like that thing you told me about when the first season of Westworld came out. It was fun because everybody was theorizing on what was going on. Same with WandaVision. That added to the fun aspect of it. Here, it was like cut and dry. The Flag Smashers were boring. They were a bunch of fucking teenagers. Even though they took the super soldier serum, I didn't feel a sense of like major threat from them. And even their plight, we never see Thanos' plight, but they somehow made Thanos still feel interesting. The Flag Smashers' plight, like we never really see these people displaced. I wish we could have seen more of that to, sympathize.
There could have been so many great flashback opportunities, like Isaiah Bradley flashbacks, Flag Smasher flashbacks, like how they lost their homes. Would have been really impressive. And I know that you don't like the political stuff as much, but I feel like they brought up all of these really important political issues, and then they didn't really go anywhere with them. You know, like, we get a little bit of Isaiah Bradley, like, and trying to close his plot, but Falcon landing in a plaza and telling everybody for 5 minutes that they need to work this out is hardly a solution. And, it's hardly really exploring that. Like, they bring up all these like very complicated political issues about like refugees and resources and displaced people and like borders and nationalism and immigration and race and, what new worlds mean that are multicultural and what borders mean in a international world and all of these issues. And then, Falcon's just like, hey guys, you guys work it out. Like, okay, what?
And I will say this. It's not that I don't like political stuff. It's just that I know Disney can't wrap it up nicely. HBO was able to do it nicely with Watchmen, and I enjoyed that very much. Disney, I don't trust them to take on like major topics like this and do it in a nicer way and close it out with a neat bow. And I have to, oh my God, that part with Sam where he like lectures the audience annoyed the fuck out of me because it was so hypocritical, and I'll tell you why. He said, and rightly so, that because he's now Captain America, some people are going to hate him because he's a black man that has the shield. That is so true. Anyone who would hate Sam or anybody else for their skin tone, that's a ridiculous reason to hate someone. It's silly. But at the same time, Sam is hypocritical as fuck because didn't he hate John Walker for a silly, ridiculous reason as well? He may not have hated John Walker for the guy's skin tone.
But they all got along at the end, man. They were like all
bros, no, like, fuck that.
Running around that plaza, like running around construction sites. John Walker got his redemption, which was weird. Like,
did he get his redemption? Like,
his redemption was going after the bus. Remember, he went after the bus instead of after the leader.
Yeah, but he shows up and gets his ass kicked, and you're like, what are you doing? You're like a Marine. You've been in battle and combat and getting your ass kicked by a bunch of fucking teenagers. This is Littlefinger's death all over again. Minus the death.
Somebody did point out like the number of people that Falcon and Winter Soldier kill in the show is insane, and yet like John Walker kills one guy, And they're like, oh man, we need to court-martial him.
No, but fuck Sam. That's so hypocritical. Like he was bitching about how people are going to judge him. He was judging John Walker before he even met John Walker. He didn't even know the guy. Like even you agree with me that like Sam and Bucky's hatred of him.
John Walker was not established well. No,
it was not established well. Like they don't know the guy. Why do you hate him? Like if anything, you should hate. And this is another criticism I have of the show. You should hate the government institutions that made the decision to take the shield from the museum and give it to Walker. But we don't know the people behind these decisions. They're never shown.
Yeah, I mean, had they made John Walker into a kind of a good old boy racist, who's like not overtly saying things but implying things, then you could maybe get like, oh, that he'd be uncomfortable with this guy. But they explicitly did the opposite. They made John Walker into, a guy married to a Hispanic wife whose best friend is black, there is no racial issues. So it's very odd, right? Like,
they specifically had to show you his wife to
right.
make sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that was very intentional. Like, okay, it's clearly a race issue for Sam, but his antagonist, it's not a race issue at all. So what statement are you making? That this is all in Falcon's head? Because that's not a great statement either, because he went to the bank, remember, and he couldn't get his loan. It's weird. Yeah, it's very, very weird. John Walker wasn't really made into the antagonist that he could have been.
True. And once again, for me, the whole themes of the show were about identity. Sam struggling on whether or not he should take up the mantle of Captain America, Bucky and his past as the Winter Soldier, John Walker heavy-lized the crown with the shield. Everybody was having identity crisis. And I like that as the main theme. You thought it was racism? One of the themes was racism, and
one of the themes is racism, definitely. But I think they just kind of dropped the ball at the end. It just kind of whimpers out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like what I'm trying to think, like what exactly happened that made Falcon want to become Captain America? Like what race-based thing? Because the race-based plot is like meeting Isaiah Bradley and finding out that Isaiah Bradley was experimented on, and then deciding that he's gonna take on Captain America because of that.
Isaiah Bradley told him that no black man should take up that shield. I think his sister, Sam's sister, basically said, "Don't let Isaiah Bradley control who you become. You make that decision." And I think Sam took it regardless because he wants to set aside all that and try to move forward and help people regardless. One thing people were saying how Bucky should have been Captain America. I disagree. It's a callback.
Yeah, I disagree.
It's a callback to the original Captain America film where I forgot the man's name escapes me, but it's the doctor who turns Steve into the super soldier. He tells Steve in a scene, the person who carries this doesn't need to be the perfect soldier. They just need to be a good man. Sam is a good man. That's why he has it. It's just. I don't know.
I mean, the way they set it up, you can't have Bucky become. I mean, if the plot of the story is, a black guy trying to come to terms with this position, you can't have at the end of the story like him quitting. Like that'd be a horrible message and would be really unsatisfying. Plus, like Bucky is way too damaged still. Like, give it like 10 more years, maybe we can talk about Bucky being Captain America.
You know what I think it is
now.
And you can kind of see this with Isaiah Bradley and the Baltimore stuff, because you didn't really need to have Isaiah Bradley in the show. I think the writers of Falcon and Winter Soldier wanted to include those themes in there, and Disney saw it and they walked it back. That's why certain scenes feel a little like weird. That's why
if the whole show were about Isaiah Bradley, now that would have been a show. Whether it was Falcon talking to him and then doing flashbacks and dealing with the whole issue. If Isaiah Bradley was the whole show, because let's be honest, his scenes and his plot were probably the most compelling parts of the show. Like that would have been a great show.
Sure.
But man, we didn't get that.
How I would have loved the scene where Isaiah Bradley, there's a flashback where he's chasing down the Winter Soldier and they're having like a little epic battle. That would have been cool too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like why age up an actor if you're not gonna, right? Why put the stupid silver makeup on him that doesn't look right if you're not going to do flashbacks of him being young.
Once again, I think it's just Disney meddling in here. The showrunners clearly had a specific plot in mind, pandemic and the racism, and I think Disney saw it and they toned down both elements, which is why it feels a little weird. Why the ending message at the end also felt a little disjointed.
I mean, this is one of the problems I have with people claiming that, like, oh, Disney is so woke, and why can't I watch stuff that's not political? And it's like, oh God, like corporations care about money. They're the most capitalistic beings on the planet. They think that if they bring up these issues, people are going to want to watch it because they're going to think it's interesting. But then at the end, because they don't want to offend anyone,
they drop the ball.
They're going to have the most non I want to say contentious, non-partisan ending, at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't have the cojones to make John Walker into a racist,
Wait, is he a racist in the comic books?
No, that's the thing is in the comic book. But the thing is like there's overt racism and there's more subtle race, mm-hmm. right? And so when you go with like in the comic book, he is definitely a nationalist, and he's definitely a violent nationalist who believes in American lives above other people's lives, right? And those themes were all brought up here with Flag Smashers and Borders and all of that. John Walker was not that character at all. Like John Walker, he never made any statement that American lives were worth more than other lives. Like he never acted in that way.
I would have liked that better. I don't mind. I wouldn't want him to be a racist. I'm fine with him having a Hispanic wife and a black best friend. But I would want to see exactly what you're saying there, where he's like America first, America, right. Make America great again type of character. But
that Disney is sitting there going, well, we don't want to offend all those MAGA, those red hats, like that's what they're thinking. They want everybody to enjoy it at the end, They're like, how are we going to make it so we have a black superhero so that we can get like the black demographic to watch our stuff, but at the same time we don't want to alienate the racists who we also want to be watching our stuff. Let's try to make it a little easy,
There needed to be a scene with John Walker where Sam and Bucky witness him going a little too far. And there also needed to be a scene where Bucky and Sam did not like the fact that the man with the mantle of Captain America has a shield and a gun right behind it. Because that always made me feel a little uneasy. That he had his gun out with the shield. I didn't like that.
Had they had a scene where they're fighting people abroad and he shoots and kills some people. And they're like, dude, you killed these guys. And he's like, whatever, they're not Americans. Like had they said a statement like that or something similar, maybe not something so on the nose, but then or these people were a threat to America or something like that. You would have gotten more of that feeling of him being nationalistic, right? But instead, he's just a guy with a bad temper.